everyone, and welcome. This is my first Featured Femme Live, and with me I have Natasha, the founder of BareFoot and Nourished,
Hi.
with Natasha Daubney. So we just had a conversation about how to pronounce her last name. Thank you for joining me today. Oh, are we frozen? Oh no. Hopefully that kicks back on. Let's see. Jeez Louise, I am really not liking this broadcasting area. It is not great for me. Let's see if I hide her and then bring her back. If that helps. I'm so sorry. Oh, Natasha. I'm sure she will join us. Reconnect in a minute and join us. While we are waiting on her to get reconnected, of course, that's the way that it happens, that we try and get our technology to work and then it doesn't. So today with her, though, we are going to be talking about living in connection with the divine feminine and journeying home to ourselves. So let me just see if it will let her connect. Oh, here she comes. So let's see. Oh, that one is, let's see, I might have to just dangle something here, and we might have to do just an invite to Facebook Live. Oh, there it is. Oh.
I clicked on a web page to bring up your Facebook page, and it just like threw my internet. So I just closed all my browsers.
That's okay. So that's fine. I've been just killing time talking, so we're still live, no problem. So I was just letting people know that today you'll be talking to us a little bit about living in the connection to the divine feminine and journeying home to ourselves, which I think is really amazing because that's something that my journey has kind of been on lately, is working with the divine feminine and really finding that journey within me. So I would just really like to know how your journey began, or if you'd like to dive right in about what you do, then it's up to you. But I'm just excited to hear you talk about it.
Well, thank you for having me. It's actually really nice just, I think, to just go into how I got here first, I guess, because I didn't start here. And as you said, it was a journey to get to here. So I grew up, my mum and dad separated when I was about 11. And so I was mostly raised by my mum anyway. And she is just this strong, independent woman, which made me very independent as well, and has made me always want to sort of chase my desires and what I want and things like that. And I remember her telling me that when I was born, she was told by a medium that I was protected by the light. So I've always had this feeling of trust in the universe and connection in that way. But sort of as growing up, went into, thought I wanted to be a teacher, then that kind of didn't work out. I went to natural therapies training, and then went to massage. While I was massaging, thought, I'll become a personal trainer, which is kind of the furthest from feminine embodiment that you can get when it comes to, let's just tune in that you are, as opposed to this beautiful temple that you are. Right. So sort of my spiritual side dropped back a little bit over those years. And then when I moved to Australia after having my first daughter to live with her dad, so we met in Hawaii and made a baby. And she is the blessing that brought us together. So she was divinely timed, and I was told a year earlier that she was actually on her way too. So the spiritual side's always been there, and I really started to embrace it a lot more after I'd had my son, my second, and started meditating with the moon again, and using essential oils a lot too. And I began to use the essential oils for more than just the physical side and go into the emotional side, which taught me to start connecting more to what was occurring within, as opposed to just worrying about my body as a body.
Yeah.
And it just grew and it grew, and it would be last year, 3 kids, life hectic, struggling to keep up, and really missing reading books. And I thought, I'm going to try audiobooks. And the first book I chose was Rise, Sister, Rise.
Oh, that's kind of what happened to me too, back on my journey.
Rise, Sister, Rise by Rebecca Campbell. And just listening to it, it literally brought me home to who I was inside, and sort of reawakened that. And obviously it's always been there. It just was a little bit quiet, a little bit stifled, other things stuffed down on top of it. Mm-hmm. And it just started to come out with each chapter. And as she talked about her initiation ceremonies and moving through the maiden, mother, wild woman, crone, and really connecting with more than just the moon for phases and intentions, but going into the archetypal energy that starts to kind of pull on us. And I just kind of went, oh my God, I've got to get back to coaching. And I thought it was going to be health coaching with a spiritual blanket. And I think about a month in, it was like, okay, this is spiritual coaching, and there's a little bit of health stuff. But that only comes because we're talking about connecting with the earth and honoring ourselves. And that was kind of where it all began, with the divine feminine. It was just little bit by little bit, and then there was this big aha moment, and it just felt right. And I can feel that same feeling now. It just sits sort of within your body, kind of moving up and down through those chakras from that womb up to the heart and bouncing about. And it just feels incredible to have come to this place. And I know that I'm home. I'm home within myself now.
And in itself, it embodies so much energy, where I had no idea energy was even stored. Do you know what I mean? And, when we think about our physical body, it's like our muscles and our skeletal system and how we can fuel that to keep going. But I think you touch on something so special, is that inner energy that we need, connecting to our womb space and really driving our force through that. So I love that you are there, and that's what you're helping women doing. So that's awesome. You spoke a little bit about your essential oils. How do you incorporate that in your cause you do goddess circles as well, correct? Do you incorporate those with your goddess circles, or can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, so I use them a lot for natural living. So one of the things that I'm really passionate about too is also sustainable living and living naturally. And I would be the alternative hippie type, my kids don't go to the doctor kind of thing. And so I use them a lot in my DIY, so that I'm getting them into nurturing my body from the outside in. And I use them a lot for emotional support. So aromatic dressing, and I know you shared a photo of me talking a little bit about aromatic dressing in your Insta stories once, that beautiful naked shot in my window.
Yes.
And when it comes to circles, usually the oil will come in prior to our opening meditation and invocation, and I'll pick an oil that sort of aligns with that. And then depending on the circle, sometimes with an anointing blend. So For the full moon, we're going to be embodying the Empress archetype, and we're going to make a blend to support stepping into the Empress and your sovereignty and sensuality, and the girls can take that home with them. But I don't always incorporate them a lot, just because I have my essential oils as a business as well, and I'm trying to find that balance of how I blend the two without people feeling like they've come to another essential oils group. So I try to focus a lot on all of the tools available to us when it comes to coaching work.
Yeah, no, I completely, I can attest to that too, because it's something that I like to find a balance between, and I don't want people to feel that. So I wanted to, because as well, I really liked how you touched on the 4 major archetypes within ourselves, and how we transition through that, from child to, when we're older. But do you do any of that work with the archetype with just our monthly cycle as well? And how would you maybe talk to someone who's kind of struggling with their energy? Would you get them to listen to their body through their menstrual cycle every month, or do you do work like that?
Yeah, so going into the actual menstrual cycle and what's happening in the womb, that's a big thing for me at the moment. That's the energy I'm really tapping and learning about. And where I start with teaching women to invite in these archetypes and align them with their menstrual cycle in a way that's not sort of overwhelming, because we go straight to talking blood mysteries and these sorts of things. People go, whoa, that's kind of like a bit weird. So I'd usually start with the archetypes and the moon and how that aligns with our menstrual cycle, because I think that's a really beautiful way for women to start to see how we're so interconnected with Mama Earth and our beautiful moon, and that is around us as well, and how it flows in and out, and how sometimes they are polar to each other as well. So obviously with the moon, we have these 4, I kind of call them lunar archetypes, because we see them with the lunar phases. We have the maiden sort of coming from around crescent moon up to just before the full moon, so around about that gibbous kind of time. And then we see the mother archetype comes in as the moon is coming into her fullness that few days after. Then we fall into the wild woman archetype as the moon is waning, and just before we come to the dark of the moon, we're back into the crone. So the moon is cycling through those, and as she's sitting in these archetypes, they're tugging on us. And then we have that occurring within our body, and we don't necessarily line up with the moon even when that's happening. So we then, while we are menstruating, we're in crone phase. We're in that energy of the crone. We're being invited to step into stillness, to go within, to listen to our inner wisdom. And this is the time when you will get your greatest delivery of guidance and messages, if you are willing to tap into that, because that's what our body wants us to hear at that time, or our soul. Then once we've finished menstruating, our energy usually picks up and we move into the maiden, and we're feeling like, right, I've done my shedding, I'm ready to go now, and now's the time where we move into the intentions that we may have discovered were going to be there for us while we menstruated, and we've got the energy to go out and do things. And I kind of personify the maiden as like that entrepreneurial go-getter, like that sort of 20-year-old who knows what she wants, and she's just out there doing everything she can to get it, putting in the action. So it's all our action outside of us kind of stuff, and this is usually the time where we feel best in social situations too. So it's where we'll feel more outgoing, we'll feel like it's a little bit easier to put ourselves out there and to connect with others. And then we go into the mother, and the mother is all about nurturing and growing and creating. It's about health as well. So we have to remember to look after ourselves when we're all go, go, go. And then the mother knows that she just inherently has to do that. That if she doesn't look after herself, if she doesn't have self-care, if she's not nurturing her body, then she can't do those same things for others. And it's where we'll see the fullness of what we've been trying to create while we were in the maiden sort of come into being as well. Physically, it's where, where we're ovulating too. So it's where our body is saying, here is your ability to create, to be in creation.
Feed me. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I like to say. Yeah.
Creation, and it's all that sacral chakra stuff happening too, which is all juicy and delicious, and you feel really connected. And it's usually when you're going to feel the most sexy as well, and the most connected to your partner is at that time. And then once we've sort of moved through that energy, we're coming into that wild woman phase. All of a sudden, we start to feel like we want to come inwards a little bit. We've had a lot of interaction with other people, and this is where you might feel that you're being introverted, that you're wanting to kind of go and you're like, I've had all these experiences, now I need to kind of figure out what's happening and what do they mean for me? How do I hold that inside without, and how do I interact with other people without snapping at them? This is kind of like the PMS state.
Yeah.
PMS state.
Yeah.
I think what's really beautiful to note here is that if we're really connecting with the energy of our wild woman, that PMS kind of energy or that fierceness that comes up, we can use that in a way that is constructive. And we can use it in a way where we are able to voice our passions and voice without being harsh about it. So there's little clues within what kind of energy comes up to how we can care for ourselves and our mental, emotional, spiritual bodies, so that we are being constructive and sending everything out through those rose-tinted glasses, sending them out through that light of love, rather than going, sorry, it's just bitch time. I'm just going to be over here snapping everyone's heads off and just don't come near me. But we still want to interact.
I think it's really important because you're owning your power then when you are tapping into that and realizing that, okay, my mood is going to be a little bit swayed towards, snappy. How can I utilize that? You're not just giving your power over to what's happening. You're actually taking it back. And I think that's a really good point that you made. So thank you for saying that. But I'm sorry I cut you off. Continue.
Oh, no, totally okay. That's really beautiful for you to know as well, because the divine, when you start to embrace the divine feminine, it is all about taking back your power. Mm-hmm. It is all about claiming sovereignty over yourself and your power. And we'll go there soon. And I'll just quickly finish on the crone before I forget to even come back to the crone. Oh, no, I started with the crone, so I have finished.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You did, yeah. I love it. Yeah, no, I could talk about it for hours, so you're good. But yes, continue with your journey and how you were saying that you said you'll get to it soon. So
yeah, so that claiming of the sovereignty and your power over yourself, or your power of yourself, claiming of your own power. That's what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. There's a few different things that kind of come into that claiming that women need to begin to embrace, and the word embodiment is, it starts with that EM, with that embrace. It's to not be contracted and held back from it, but to go, I'm going to open my to you and invite in whatever it is you have to teach me, to be open and receptive to whatever I need to receive from this. And that in itself is an action of surrender. Mm-hmm. It is saying, I don't quite know what this feminine embodiment I need to take on is, or what this divine energy is, but it's kind of calling to me. And without putting myself off by looking at all the stuff other people are doing, I'm just going to say, okay, I'm ready for whatever needs to come first.
Mm-hmm.
And being open and soft and receptive to that. And I open my arms when I say that, because when I open my arms, they're not here.
Mm.
And this opens up, the heart opens up, the solar plexus opens up, and we fall into that place where we have or hold our courage to go somewhere we don't know, to go into a place of unknown. And that's totally what this journey all is. You don't know what's going to arise. You don't know where it's going to take you yet. You just can't map it out, because It's feminine, it's water, it's emotions, it's energy. It's not held except by that little bit of routine we create through our rituals, which gives us a masculine container to keep us from falling apart like a puddle.
Yeah. That's true. No, I love it, and I think that that's really great. One question I had for you, because I find here, because we have kind of traditional seasons, something that kind of I've been called to do within my own feminine cycle is to really honor myself throughout the seasons and follow those seasons. So for instance, here we're in winter and it's snowing and it's you don't want to be outside. So naturally you want to hibernate and kind of use that crone energy of winter. How do you go, like, I'm really sorry, this is my ignorance is showing. How do you go about doing that in Australia? Like, do you have traditional kind of seasons where you do notice a difference in, like, even your harvest, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. It varies depending on where in Australia you are. So at the moment I'm in Melbourne, and I can tell you that winter is cold and I hate it.
Okay.
But one of the things that working with the archetypes is teaching me, and I found last winter while it was freezing that it was a lot easier while it was cold, is that those seasons are really important and they hold that archetypal energy too. So we have them with the moon, we have them with our menstrual cycle, we have them with the seasons, and that we have them with our life stages as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to, and I always just say start with the moon and your menstrual cycle.
Right.
But we have, take into account in winter and what's occurring in summer and how they're different as well. Obviously, I always feel like I do come within myself a little bit more throughout the winter, which is exactly what Crone wants us to do. She wants us to regenerate, to rebirth ourselves. It's that time that we shed what no longer serves us, that we let go of the things we don't need to hold on to, so that we can step into new life with spring and be renewed and invigorated again when that light starts to hit us. And you definitely see it. Like we went away winter just been for 5.5 weeks. And we went away to Asia, so it was there. And I was really mindful of the fact that I had just read Rise Sister Rise, and that importance of the energy of the seasons, because she talks about it in her book where she chased the sun and didn't have a winter for a really long time. And because of that, she burnt out. She didn't allow her body the rest and recovery that it needs in order to become rejuvenated again. Sorry, my phone's like, I'm just going to mute. I'm just going to mute book club conversation.
Oh, on Sisters Enchanted.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. That's okay. I thought I muted my computer, but it keeps popping up notifications, so we're in the same boat. It's fine.
Yeah. All right, I've muted it. No more. So back to it. So yeah, she speaks about how she didn't get that and how that was part of her undoing as well. And so while we were away, I was kind of, I think because I was in this phase of I'm going to relaunch my business. I was spending a lot of time going within. I'd taken a book that was specifically just for creative writing, and so I was spending that time, and I love to take like an hour at the breakfast buffet as well and make the most of that, and the kids will leave after half an hour and I'll stay there by myself just enjoying this sort of chaotic peace. There's like chaos around me, but I feel so peaceful in this little bubble. And I think little moments like that allowed me to still honor that stillness that needed to come. And obviously being on a holiday, it was, you know, there was less go as well. We were there to slow down from the hecticness that occurs when you've got school runs and everyone work, you know, hubby working and me trying to work from home with the kids still here and everything. So I think that it's a really good point you bring up, that sometimes you'll have activities that you support embodying the feminine, and they're really well suited in summer, like putting your feet on the ground without shoes on.
Yeah.
And you can't really do that for long enough to connect when there's snow.
Yeah.
Because instead of thinking about your roots moving down into the earth, you're thinking, holy shit, my feet are freezing.
Yeah.
So we have to learn different ways to be able to look after ourselves throughout the seasons and have more than just one or two practices that we do. Have a range of practices that we can call on to go with how our energy feels that day, to go with what archetype we're sitting in. And I'll notice that often when I'm in maiden phase, I don't always feel like I need to aromatic dress as much. I don't always feel like I need the emotional support, because when I'm connected to my maiden, I'm really confident in myself. And my energy is really high, and I feel like I've just got anything that's been thrown at me. But then when I come into my mother phase, that can be really tricky for me, because there's that balancing of everything I want with the demands of having a family and me trying to kind of move out of mother stage faster than what I really need to. So that's when my aromatic dressing becomes really important. It's connecting to not what I want to do, but how I want to be. And then, and that touch and coming back to who I am physically, who I am within my body, and calming myself through moments of really slow self-care, so that when I come back into the rush of children, I can keep up. But yeah, there's times when, you know, some practices just won't feel like they're connecting for you, and others are calling your name, and maybe you've not tried them yet, and then you have to.
Yeah, exactly. As you were speaking, I kind of had a thought of it's it's for me, when I started really honoring my cycle and really trying to flow with that flow and using the moon as well. I found that during my mother phase, when I was ovulating, I had so much resentment come up for me. And I believe that you do this with the women that you coach and stuff, is like honoring those feelings that are coming up within us. And how do you deal with that kind of stuff when you're coaching someone around this? How would you help someone through that kind of phase of, you know, being a woman or honoring your divine isn't always going to be sparkling and beautiful, and there's going to be a shadow that does come up. What would be some suggestions that you would offer someone for that?
Yeah, the biggest one I think I always suggest women try is writing it down.
Oh, yeah.
Because if we're not practiced, it takes practice to come into a place where you can kind of feel what's going on and see it from more than just the perspective of you in the experience. And I've not long come to this place myself where I will be experiencing something and feeling it and being within it. And then it's almost like higher self Natasha is over here watching everything. And I've got these little messages like whispering things to me. But before I got to that point where I felt like I had like all these different versions of me seeing what was going on and saying, try this, let this go, do that, you know, kind of was guiding me through it all, supporting me at like this little team. Before I got there, I had to write it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when we take it outside of ourselves and put it onto paper and then read it back, we gain perspective.
Yeah.
We see it from another angle. And one of the worst things we can do with our shadows is go, I just don't know what to do with you, and I'm gonna ignore you. If I don't pay you any attention, you'll go away. And it's all well and good, but it means it's still sitting there. She's gonna come a knocking again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, it with your suggestion of writing it down, it allows us to kind of view ourselves as like someone that we would be helping, right? Or that we would be coaching or giving advice to. It allows us to be gentle with ourselves and go, that's really not as bad as I thought it may have been now that I see it. Or if it is something that's like, wow, I really need to work on that, then you can find people like yourself who does coaching and stuff that can maybe help you through that, that the I call it black gunk that comes up from our past. So I'm really grateful that there's other women out there that do the work that you do. So
thank you. I think it's really beautiful work to do, to let women know that it's okay to feel everything that's going on like that. It's okay to be in that. And coming back to claiming sovereignty over yourself is to then go, it's okay when this arises. It's okay if I'm not doing everything or saying everything in the way I need to with those around me. But when you've claimed sovereignty, there becomes this awareness from those around you too. And I notice it a lot with my husband. I went through, sometimes this work can take you to really deep places where it's really dark. And I went through that a little bit last year at one stage, what they kind of call the dark night of the soul, where you've fallen into this place where it's all of the crap you have to work through and let go of. And it's not depression, but it feels really heavy in the way that I imagine depression would feel. And it's not just a flitting moment. It can be there for for a few weeks, or for some people, many months. But communicating what's occurring for you through that moment means that you allow others to see this awareness of what's happening for you too. And then when I go through moments where I seem to be withdrawn a little bit and I'm sitting in different emotions, my husband's really aware of them now, which he's not spiritual in the slightest. He believes in ghosts and that they're real, but doesn't believe in spirits and talking to them. I'm like, they're the same thing. Like, he's not spiritual. He doesn't have a belief system or anything.
Right.
But I think this real awareness has come about where it might have caused me to become defensive and him to be like, what the frick is going on with you? He's just like, are you all right? Are you okay? What's happening? Kind of thing. And I can see him he knows to give me space, and there becomes this beautiful sort of energetic dances now occurring between us. Because I claimed it and said it was okay to experience it. And then, and when I was going through the really sort of darker time last year, and like I said to him, it's just stuff that's coming up, and I don't know when it's going to end. I don't know how to make it better. I just have to work through it and kind of just do my practices and be there with it, and we'll get there. And through saying that, through having that conversation, you own your power.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
But I could have, yeah.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, this is that. I could have stuffed it all down. I could have just said, this is too hard. This is too heavy. I can't do this while keeping up with everything else, because life still goes on. You can't just crawl into a little shell. But you just have to go, right, okay, if this is what's occurring with me, I need to have these practices in place so that I can still human with others. And then it'll all just kind of come together. But if I'd stuffed it down, it would have just come up another time. And
Oh no, you were on a roll, and I hope that other people can still hear you. Oh no. So I think what Natasha was saying, which I really agree with, and I am so glad that she brought that up, is that when we acknowledge parts of ourselves, like those shadows, and we live in them and allow other people to kind of see them, because our partners definitely will see that. They live with us every time. So even the slightest mood change, someone's going to notice. I think it really allows those masculine people in our life to hold space for us the way that we need to be held in that space. So for some, oh, I believe she's coming back. So for some, being held in that space might just be, look, I'm feeling this. I appreciate you acknowledging that, but I need some time alone. And sometimes being held in that space is actually being held by that masculine part of ourselves, holding us in their strength, allowing for our emotions to come through. And I think that that's really beautiful that Natasha and her partner have that connection, and that she's teaching other women how to really acknowledge that and put that forward out into the world. Um, and I'm really grateful for that. Let's see if she comes back on. I hope she does, because I have a few more questions before we exit. I don't know if you can hear me, Natasha. I'm checking my phone here. Let's see. Okay. Well, I will talk a little bit while she will be reconnecting, I'm sure. So one other thing I would really like to speak to Natasha about is a mantra. I try and make a mantra for myself whenever it feels good. This month, I've been really feeling that crone energy of the winter, especially February coming to an end, or beginning, but winter kind of, we're right in the middle of it. And my mantra for the remainder of the winter season is to send it love. So whenever I'm finding myself doubting myself, judging others, or judging myself, um, judging, even maybe just playing this. Oh, perfect. Hello.
I've managed to download on my phone.
Oh, perfect.
And come back onto my phone. I think this is going to work better. Sorry, I just put up my...
Yeah, that's okay. I was just saying that I really appreciate that you and your husband, or you and your partner, could have that conversation, because I think that's really important part of us owning our power, is allowing for that masculine energy that's in our life to hold space for us. And without us acknowledging what that space needs to look like, and owning, like by owning our power, we can do that. It kind of gives them a break of not having to guess. I really liked how you said that your partner just kind of knew that you just needed space, and it sounded like you would just talk, and he would listen, not try and fix it. Just listen and allow it to flow. And then when you needed to introvert back, he didn't feel that personal, like, oh, is it me? He just knew, like, no, this is something that she's working through. When she needs it, I'll hold space for her. And I think that's a really great way to incorporate our yin and yang and really balance out, the divine feminine and that strength of the masculine. So, yeah, I was commenting on that.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to allow that position for them as well, to allow them to be a part of our journey, as they are the container, sort of like that we often will call our husbands our rocks, or our place to come back to feel safe and secure. It's like they're our base chakras.
Yeah.
And but we have to communicate our needs to them, because the masculine is so different to the feminine, and many men are not connected in with that, with their divine feminine within them. So they can't, unless we tell them, they can't bounce off us. And if we don't learn to tell them,
Right.
then that's where the fights can occur. And that's where in the past, instead of just telling him what was going on, I might have just become defensive and gone, I'm okay, what are you talking about? Like, and just become a right bitch about it. And that's not good for either of us.
No, it definitely isn't. With wrapping up, I have just a few more questions.
Yeah.
I was just speaking that I like to hold a mantra and change my mantra when it feels good. But right now I'm kind of holding a mantra until spring, and for me it's send it love. I'm finding myself within this like kind of crone phase that I'm looking to others and I'm not looking into myself. And so when I find myself doing that, I'm sending it love and releasing it. What would be your mantra right now?
Oh, goodness. Well, for a long time it was, what was it? I think it was ease and grace, with ease and grace.
Yeah, that's a good
And
one.
not in the way of, just living in ease and grace, but if something was challenging, how can I do this with a little more ease and grace?
Yeah.
How can I do this with a little more softness? How can I, instead of shouting, how can I change the way I need to react right now in a way that's going to be a little more softer and let us flow through, rather than kind of releasing everything and then going, oh, I feel gross. So that was it for a really long time. And now that you say it, I'm actually at the moment thinking, I don't know what my mantra is right now.
That's
and
okay.
I probably need to think about that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe a similar question would be if you could, and I do want to talk about your upcoming events, but if you could leave anyone listening to this with kind of like a word of wisdom, to even just get started working on the divine, what would that advice be?
Our divine feminine, she sits down in that womb space a lot. That really is our power center. And I think the best place you can start, if you don't know where to start with the divine feminine, is to start with that divine feminine that's already housed within you, to start with your womb, to learn your cycle, and to write down what your emotions are on each of those days, to write down what phase that is for you, and just build awareness. Just build awareness on your own cycles and rhythms. And the other stuff will start to flow in from there, and it will be delivered to you. You will see the right posts pop up on Facebook, the right pictures show up in your Instagram feed. You'll see the right stories or videos from someone.
Yeah.
But if you but you have to start with that awareness of yourself first, to come back into your body, to live from in here rather than living out here. That's probably my biggest advice. The divine feminine is all about sinking within.
I love it. Thank you so much for saying that. Now, if people want to connect with you, which I really highly recommend they do, how can they do that?
So there's a couple of ways that you can. So obviously I've got a Facebook page. So you can find me at BareFoot and Nourished with Natasha Daubney. I'm on Instagram as well, but Instagram's a bit of a funny game, and I love Facebook for communication. And then I have a free Facebook tribe as well. So where we are building our tribe of women who all want to do this work, who want to learn more about what it is to connect to the divine feminine, who want to bring more spiritual well-being into their life, and that is the Barefoot and Nourished. Embrace your inner goddess. That's the name of that group there, and you can come over and join. And we have online women's circles, and at the moment for February we are going through feminine embodiment.
Yeah.
So it's perfect timing, actually. I get to go and post this fabulous video in there afterwards with all of our musings.
Yeah, I love that. And I will definitely share, because through that you do your events, correct? That's where you post a lot of your events. So I'll be sure to share that page with my viewers and stuff so that they can connect with you. And that's lovely. I very much enjoy your Instagram stories. So I really love flipping through them and just seeing the one day you made like an aloe kind of salve for your skin, and I was like, wow, that's so great. So you're full of knowledge, and I really, really appreciate you doing the work that you do and sitting and speaking with me today. It was really great having you.
Thank you. Full appreciation back to you as well. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for making space for us all, and you've inspired me to do the same as well, to make the space to be able to share other women doing all this beautiful work around the world. We're so lucky we have the internet to all connect together. And if you just sort of tried to look in your local community of how am I going to do this work, we might not find it, but we're the beautiful trailblazers out there.
Absolutely. I felt so honored having someone from across the globe for my second live. I was like, wow, how amazing is that? That's so great. So I really appreciate it. And I'm I'm going to end our broadcast, but if you stick around with me for a little bit, we can just chit chat quickly, okay?
Yeah, sounds great.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining us, and I hope you join us next Friday. Bye.
Bye.